when we talk about creation, so we compare the creation with one gender, that is the feminine gender. We call it Prakriti, and the highest supreme,
Yeah.
we call him the, what do I say, the male gender, or
Purusha.
that is how we personify.
Yeah.
So can you please throw some light on
Yeah.
that? Why is the creation?
It's a misunderstanding of reality which we all experience, but it's a misunderstanding of that reality. And when we put genders, we create gender biases. And okay, so within us, in our own psychology, there are two sides of our consciousness. One is the observer, okay, and the other is the participant when we act. By observing, we gather knowledge through the senses, then the mind analyzes, or we may simply observe by whatever means. So, observation can go to any extent, but observation is a means to gather knowledge. And for that, the more you stand apart from whatever you want to observe, the more you are likely to know. Okay, this one kind of knowledge. But there is another kind of knowledge where you identify with that which you want to know and know it from inside out. Okay. Is that fine or not? This is a knowledge which you gain by observing. He is looking famished, probably he is hungry. Okay, observed. If I identify with the person who is looking hungry, maybe he is not hungry, he is simply depressed. He had his stomach full but is depressed. So there is another kind of knowledge which is intimately connected with the object. So the knowledge which stands back from creation, and equally you can say of power. There is a power which stands back from creation and is going to, it's one with knowledge where you are taking a decision. For instance, there is a snake or a rope. Knowledge stood back. Now, knowledge, based on this knowledge, simultaneously you have to decide. If it's a rope, maybe I can use it or leave it if I am not sure. Or if it's a snake, I need to save the snake. Okay, sorry, no, okay, run away from the snake. But yes, save the snake, why not? So there are different reactions, okay? But similarly, there is a power which operates at that level. What is that power? If it's a snake, how to handle a snake? If it's a rope, what is the best use you can make of this rope? They are always together, knowledge and power. So there is a knowledge and power which stands back from creation and becomes a witness. It's tremendous knowledge and power, because it understands. And from this knowledge and power, creation has emerged. So this poise where it stands back from creation, always is superior to creation, is the Purusha. And the knowledge and power which goes into creation understands it intimately, in all its details, all its parts, and brings back something else that, look here, this is how these things operate, or sets them into motion. That is the Prakriti. They are one in their origin, but they are two in their action. So, unfortunately, it happened due to Sankhya. So, it's this division started in Sankhya philosophy. Then Jnana Yoga, and unfortunately the Upanishad, that's why I always say, don't stick only to Upanishad. This is my impression. Vedanta has created a lot of problems in Indian thought because it focuses on Jnana. And what Jnana? The ultimate Jnana. So what happens? Ultimately it takes that poise that by withdrawing, you will know. But this knowledge and power cannot be complete unless you also identify with everything which is in creation. That is the Divine Mother. That is Tantra. So Tantra gives you the same knowledge and power, but in another way. It talks about processes, beings, goddesses, force. Vedanta teaches you the ultimate, supreme knowledge and power from which creation has emerged. But the paradox is, though you discover it, you are unable to change it. Have you observed it? I used to find it very strange. That yes, it's true. If you practice Vedanta sincerely, you can enter into that state. But why you are unable to change it? Because you are in that omniscience and omnipotence of God. Because you've created division. To change, you have to go back to Prakriti. So a Vedantic yogin, ultimately if he has to treat his eyes, will go to the ophthalmologist, Prakriti. So because of this, there was a division which was created, which Shri Aurobindo now heals. In their origin, the two are one. The two who are one and play in many worlds. In knowledge and ignorance, they have spoken and met. Our pleasure and pain are their title deeds. And their life and death are their eyes interchange. So when we understand the two who are one, and there is a poem of Sri Aurobindo Krishna where he says, one to hold, two to be. Those who know it, they know the total truth. That's the integral truth which our friend Arish was just mentioning. Okay, so Sri Aurobindo speaks about it. So this first time this is there in the Vedas actually. Is there. So Karma Kanda and the Gyan Kanda there. But
The Vedas are also the Upanishadic interpretations.
exactly. So as it has been understood, because also Upanishad took the Jnana Kanda specifically. It hints, but it has been lost. Shri Krishna brings it back again. When he speaks about Para Prakriti and he speaks about the Vibhuti Yoga, Sri Aurobindo brings it in all its fullness and says if you need to change creation, you must the Divine Mother, because it is she who has become Prakriti. Para Prakriti, there she is one, Shakti of the Ishvara. Then what does she does when she is given the charge of creation? She is infinite, she is infinite, and he is infinite, if you want to put it like that, though he and she are ways of saying. Two poises of the same reality. Okay? So then she builds many forms. That's where she becomes Maya and Brahman, watching. Then in creation she becomes Purusha and Prakriti, the witnessing consciousness and the active or the operating consciousness. They are one. But their simultaneity can only be found in the highest truth. But ordinarily we either when we are, it's like when we are busy with work, we lose contact with the observant consciousness. This is what ordinarily happens. So for practical purposes in yoga, you have to, in the beginning, create a distinction between Purusha and Prakriti. Meaning thereby, if you say they are one and start operating right away, it's very difficult. So for practical purposes only, the distinction is made between the observing consciousness or the witnessing consciousness and the operating consciousness. But as you grow in yoga, you discover that the one is flowing, the observer is flowing in the observed. Now you see how physics theory comes close. Yeah, observer and the observed, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, right? So this you discover later on, that the observer is flowing into the observed. And you also discover the reverse, that even when you withdraw completely, still the Shakti, the Prakriti, whatever you want to call it, is there. You can't cut. She has gone to rest. Anytime she can emerge. There are two poises. But in nature, man, woman, masculine, feminine, that's for, because all these profound truths, nature, where will it write a story from? It will draw from the same material. So it says, okay, how do I make creation? Okay, let me create some kind of joy, some kind of attraction, repulsion, all kinds of things. So it creates gender to, like a play. So you have hero and villain. Basic story is the force, again hero and villain. So basic story is that ultimately truth will win. But how will truth win? There is something which opposes the truth. Truth grows in that process. The hero grows. His heroism comes out. Imagine a Ramayana without Ravan. Ram's character itself will not develop. Imagine Sita without the challenges she faced. So that's why you have these seeming opposites, dualities. But in the one divine, they are reconciled. They are as much necessary as aspects of creation to bring it to its fullness. So even what we call as opposition, what we call as evil, ultimately serves the purpose. Okay. But in life, you have to start with a distinction. You can't say because the creator is beyond good and evil, I don't need to make a distinction. I'll do whatever I feel like doing. So, in the beginning, we have to create a distinction between good and evil, right and wrong. When we go to the higher classes, you discover actually evil was as much necessary for our journey as the good. If you have seen the movie Bedazzled, okay, it was an Bedazzled. Bedazzled. It's a nice movie. Children can watch it. It was an Oscar. I think it got some 4 or 5 awards also. I think 90s, good movie.
So, but then the question remains: why the ultimate divine is He, and why the Prakriti?
That's our foolishness. Because again, Vedantins will call he. Tantrics will not call he. They'll call she.
So that is suggesting that.
Tantra, that's what I'm saying, tantric. So they will call she. But of course, they will ultimately say that she will take you into that ultimate.
That is tat.
Tat. It's not he actually, literally. So if you read the Tantra, if you read the Devi Puran,
The absolute.
so Devi Puran says, yeah, ultimately you have Om, Tat, Sat. It's not he or she. And if you read the Devi Puran, it says that who impelled creation, even in the Rig Veda, 10th mandala, it is like that. That there is something of which nothing can be told. You can't say he, she, day, night, nothing you can say. Even gods don't know. Then what happens? A desire or impulse, whatever you want to call it, impulsion seizes upon this or that, whatever you want to call it, it. And then, as Hiranyagarbha it floats for a long time, the rest is history. So, what is that impulsion? That is she, the Divine Mother, the infinite Shakti. So, this is a question of which side you lean. Spiritual, both sides are there, but unfortunately, because Tantra went into disrepute, because of certain risks which were involved in it, it tried to explore nature, and nature is beautiful and nature is dangerous. It's like Vedantin is like the person who is watching a movie on Himalaya. Sorry to use that word. I know strict Vedantins will be angry with me. But he like somebody is watching, oh wow, what a beautiful Mount Everest, it's so wonderful. I have watched Kanchenjunga from Darjeeling, Tiger Hill Point. Sun is falling. But I have also been to Leh Ladakh and been posted there. Then when you go there, then you see beauty as well as danger. And you are going on the road. So Tantra went into that territory, which the Vedantin sees from above as an image. So Tantra, when it went into that danger, many of them fell into the khai. What can you do?
And also because medicine for X can be a poison.
Yes, and you need to be very strong. That's why to practice Tantra, it's called as a Veer Path. So not many can undertake it. Kashmir Shaivism, many of them, Shaivism is there, Vaishnav Tantra, which if at all, that's a little more favorite to me, though Shaivism has its own beauty and charm. Shakti Tantra, it's very powerful. These are the three main branches of Tantra.
Those other two, they were aiming at the reconciliation between Vedanta and
They all were trying. Tantra is an attempt to reconcile creation and the creator. I would rather say that. Yes, Vedanta and creation, or the Purusha and Prakriti. Yeah. So in Tantra you have the image, Shiva is lying and Kali is dancing. But this is not so much taught, or Indians are not much familiar, because it is associated with all kinds of Tantra parlor and Tantra, all kinds of things in the name of Tantra.
Usually considered to be.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Yeah. But people have done of Nirvana chocolate, you will get there, Nirvana parlor, what can you do? This. Yeah. Yeah.
But whoever said that Purush as he, when we say, did they project that male dominance instinct?
No, we have turned it into. Because there is no male and female in that sense. Male and female are only in the sense, as I said, they are there in both, are in everyone. So in everyone, the masculine element was identified with the sky, the heaven, in the sense that which is observing. And the feminine with earth element, or anything which is moving, that was another way. So the gender distinction was on these two poises. And even now, those who believe that they are male, so-called male, what do? They end up like a couch potato. They will talk about, अरे आज election में क्या हुआ? Poor feminine element is making food. If she doesn't make food, this fellow will not survive the other day. So both are needed, okay? Both are one reality. But yes, there are people who, in India at least, feminine and masculine are fairly balanced. But there are Semitic religions where there is nothing even of the feminine concept. So it obviously, generally, it identified Prakriti, creation, and by default, which is unfortunate also because you see, most work is done by the feminine in any house, anywhere. In animals, for sure. The male lion, sorry, he doesn't do anything. The fellow only creates more lions. And the she lion, she hunts, she safeguards. If you look at the animal world, so because she's so there is something like that in lower nature. This distinction has been created, but man is supposed to go beyond. He has to understand that it's not there is the animal life has been organized in a certain way. Before the animal life, again, if you go much lower down, there is no male and female. There is nothing like a male plant and a female plant. With animal life, it comes. And it prolongs in the human. But going beyond human, it will not be there. But it will not be there the way it is being done today, okay? Where there is a complete blurring. All is same, everything is same. There is the masculine and the feminine element in everyone. That's the concept of Ardhanarishwara and many other. So you must balance the two. Somebody who is only living in an ideative world is a useless fellow. He writes books but has no contact with reality. There are others who are only active but they don't have the vision. He's a dangerous fellow. So one is useless, the other is dangerous. Okay.
Also, it's a matter of language in which we understand.
Yes, of course. In India, you don't have that,
Yes,
yeah,
because in English we are introduced
using he and she.
using body as an image.
Yeah.
So, but in Sanskrit or most of the regional languages, your sense of masculinity and femininity is derived from that innate sense
Yeah. You don't use.
of bodies of consciousness.
Yeah, many, it's a problem of language also. You don't use the word Purusha and Prakriti, but you don't mean like he, she, the way we use in English
Mother
language.
has spoken, the same question had come up in one of her Wednesday talks, I think. She has said that there's Purusha and Prakriti is not masculine and feminine. That is the
Yeah,
meaning of the-
it's a two poises of one reality, two modes of action which is there in everyone.
So can you please talk about masculine elements and feminine elements?
Yes, so that's what I was mentioning. So there is right from beginning. So there is the observer element, the ideative mind. What does the ideative mind do? It takes its flight. Okay? And ultimate flight is beyond everything. And the feminine element is the executive part. You have taken the flight and discovered that all is one. How are you going to actually translate it in real life? What does it mean even? Now that one is infinite. So when you execute the one who is infinite, you have to build infinity. Which is more difficult and more challenging and more. It is the so that's why the Divine Mother Sri Aurobindo gives so much importance.
So is that nature also reflected in the physicality or the physical?
In physicality, in the lower nature, the attraction between the two genders is because there is a need to complement these two parts. That's true. The attraction between a man and a woman is because of the two different modes, and to an extent, in human beings, it does get reflected because men, as I said, largely their operating system is in the mind. They're very good at weaving theories and discussion. And women are very good at executing things. So it has many implications. Today in society, for example, more and more women are taking lead. They are taking part in various, which is what it should be. Because otherwise, society becomes too much male dominated, where by male dominated means masculine dominated, where there is all big ideas, big words, but it doesn't get translated into practice. So I quite agree. It's very nice that this balancing is automatically taking place because we are in a new age.
But due to this, individually, for a male and a female, is the path of yoga or spirituality has some differences.
No difference. Absolutely no difference. Except that, generally, men, masculine type of fellows, how do I call it? Okay, the male, generally, because he's more intellectual, he likes to, take the path of, traditionally, the path of meditation, jnana, and things like that. Whereas the feminine female, she takes the path of bhakti and service, generally, because she is more from the heart and the life energy. So, in a way, it is easier for women because love is the fastest way to reach the divine. But then, well, there is no hard and fixed rule. But most men start their yoga through the intellect. Most men. They read, they like to think, they explore. Then one day the heart is touched. They have some glimpses. But women often, they fall in love with God, or, they are touched deep. Again, there are many bhakt who are men. So, as I said, you can't make an absolute rule. But generally speaking, women, because they heart and the vital is very prominent, they take to seva very quickly. But in ashram, mother has, that's why changed everything. If you go to the dining room, most of the work is done by men. Cooking, washing, everything. She has changed the rules of the game. But men generally, again, these generalizations are not, yeah, they tend to read and they like to discuss, talk about the Gita, where women like to live it. Yeah. Okay.
In the path of yoga, it is said that observe everything, the emotion or the thoughts. So I need to understand that how we can observe or understand dreams, and
Oh.
how we can understand ourselves.
Yeah. So this is a very big subject, but first let me make a little correction. Self observation is one of the ways to start yoga, not necessarily the only one. Okay, there are different ways of starting yoga, and self observation is one of them, very common. Because the reason is that if you are yourself, see, the nature that today we are encompassed in is a nature constituted of what is called as ignorance, meaning thereby there is truth within it, but it is covered. It's not easily visible. So, first you must learn to disentangle yourself. If you are caught in the web, you can't understand the web. So, observation through witnessing, this is one of the first part. So, how does one do it? One learns to step back. Meaning thereby, practically, if something is happening in your life, in event, circumstances, don't rush into action impulsively. Don't let anger, fear, all these things, they will arise. But learn to take a step back, take a step back. Then you will see that all these disturbing emotions settle down. Then you will see a thing for whatever it's worth it. So it's not only yoga, but even in practical life, it's very useful. Okay? So yoga should not be divorced from life. It gives you a vantage point because you see the thing as it is. But then yes, it can sometimes make life very dull and dry also, by the way. Okay? So now coming to dreams. So the same process. Initially, because we are caught up in that storm, we can't see anything. So many people don't remember that dream. Why? Because dream carries them like a whirlwind. They don't know what's happening. They are in deep sleep. They come out, say, I didn't have dream. No, they have dreamt, they don't remember. But as a result of yoga, and sometimes even otherwise, when we are undergoing development, there are people who don't claim that they are doing yoga, but they are engaged in that process. So slowly, part of consciousness begins to get detached. All developed human beings, or even people who try to live by something higher like buddhi. So a part of consciousness begins to get detached and becomes the observer. Usually it is a mental observer. So when they dream, because this observer part has already started becoming active, you begin to remember the dream. Process is the same. I mean, process in the way that if I ask you what were you thinking, so you will say what you were thinking, isn't it? How did you know that you were thinking this? Something in you observed, isn't it? Something in you was observing. You may even say that 2 hours back I was thinking like this. So, even though we were thinking, we were not completely identified with the thought. So, this is how some people do it with practice, but also otherwise with inner development. A time comes when there is a separation between the inner being and the outer, between the different parts of our being, especially the mental witness. So, then in the dreams, you begin to see, you remember fragments, and then, of course, that's a vast subject. Dream language, dream world, dream landscape, that's a very vast subject. That is like, for example, there is no correlation necessarily on earthly life. For instance, if you see somebody dying in the dream, it may mean something of your past has dropped off. If you see losing chappals, so there are different meanings. So your scooter has got, so the need for changing a vehicle. So vehicle is not just the physical body. So that's a very vast world. Dream is a language in symbolic terms. So also there are universal symbols which are always applicable, but there are symbols which are unique to each age. So today we will not see cows and horses as light and force. We will see something else. Okay, today when we see the journey, we will see it more in terms of speed of a vehicle rather than a force or a horse. You will see, scooter, cycle, train, car, maybe, planes and spaceships, ships. So that images, because in each age there is a collective unconscious or the collective consciousness, and that throws up images. It's a vast subject, okay, but this is just to touch upon it. So shall we stop here? I know questions are endless. You can always send me on WhatsApp. I'll be very happy to respond. Okay? And it's good to have questions, so I don't feel troubled by it. But of course, in one particular session, there would be some time limit. But you are most welcome to raise any questions and send me. I'll be happy to respond. You're right there, okay? So you can take the number and feel free to. Don't worry that this is a trivial question. There are no trivial questions. There are stupid answers. There are no stupid questions. Okay? No question is stupid. And I mean it. And you should question everything, I would say. I have grown like that. I have questioned everything in my house, in scriptures. If you don't question, means you are a dead person. Who doesn't question? A dead man doesn't question. Okay, so do question and don't feel it will offend or something. No, nothing. A teacher who gets offended by question is not worthy of his job description. Okay? Yeah.